Songs of the Sea by Sharon Dorival. I looked towards the shore of Landscola Beach, but it was long gone. We were in deep ocean waters, drifting for hours, like dried coconuts on a pilgrimage to an island we could claim for our own. "Daddy, I cannot see the beach," I said. Daddy stirred and yawned, raised himself on one elbow and looked around us. The waves rocked our raft with more vigor. Daddy grinned at me, but I could see the little vein pulsing at his right temple. He was concerned. He sat up and put the oar into the water and began to maneuver the raft. The swell splashed over the raft, and it seemed to me that even with his carpenter muscles, we were still moving closer and closer to the horizon and the sunset's fiery rays. He cleared his throat and said, "Let me teach you a new one, Sharon." I perked up instantly. I loved when he sang to me. I held on to the vine lashings of the raft and tried to put the cold and wet out of my mind. "Fill your mind with positive thoughts. It's only you who can connect the dots. Realize what you have and what you can become. Remember, if you don't, you will remain forever numb. Numb to a true beauty and potential ahead. Look within your heart and never be farsighted. Appreciate the moment and don't think too much. Living once is enough, enough on its own. Now throw in the anchor. Never forget where you are from. Don't let anyone tell you it's impossible. Your dream is taking flight." His rich, deep voice was strained as he thrust the oar into the water and pulled. The darkening blue-gray sky arched over us. He stopped rowing, breathing hard. His brawny arms glistened from sweat and seawater. He sang more softly now. "My mother told me, nothing is really what it seems. They want to judge you, but Shao, they don't even know you. Now come, tell me what's beneath your surface. You can't hide forever, girl. Come here, stay there, do this, come here. Let's get to know the ocean. Color our world with the gifts she gives. Trust her with our very soul." He stopped abruptly and glanced at me. He gave a short bark of laughter. "That's not a good one for a time like this, not true? Come on, you sing one for me now." His voice was loud and hearty. I couldn't think of one, so instead I looked back in what I hoped was the direction of our coastal village, Coliho. Coliho was in the north of Dominica, a small village with just under 800 people. I wondered if Mammy was angry with us. By now she must have found the 7 baskets of dirty laundry I had abandoned to follow my father on this adventure. But how could I not shirk chores when he had come around the corner of our old wooden house on its stilts, singing, "Lost my shadow, what will I do?" And I responded, "Lost your shadow, move into the light." He laughed and hugged me. "Do you want to go on an adventure? You want to hide away from those house chores?" he asked, and his eyes twinkled with mischief. And then he showed me the skillfully crafted raft he was carrying on his back. "Yes, I want to go. Everybody else gets to play and I alone have to work," I complained. He regarded me silently. I was 11, the eldest of 6 and one on the way. My life revolved around school and chores and no play. He struck a pose with his grizzled chin in his hand and stared at the sky as though deep in thought. "You want to live the stories you read and not feel like Cinderella?" I nodded enthusiastically. He held the raft over his head. "Let's go. You are in for the thrill of your life. Hurry up before your mammy come back." I was so excited I had followed without question. I knew Mammy would be upset I left my siblings to fend for themselves. Worse to go with my father, who everybody said was a little crazy. But he and I were alike. The call of the wild was in our blood. On our way to the beach, we talked about many things as he was a self-professed authority on all topics, and we sang. Where will we go? No one will know. Where are we going? We don't even know. We are headed to a land beyond the horizon, a place where the sun goes to rest, while the moon comes out to play. Though they say we are crazy, we shall not care. We will go in search of treasures hidden under the deep blue sea. And I skipped like a young donkey with my lanky limbs in that last exuberance of childhood. The raft was not as beautiful as the replica of the blue nose he had made for me after we finished reading the Dominica story by historian Dr. Lennox Honeychurch. The blue nose was the fastest sailboat in the world when it was built in 1921. I loved ships, and now I would be a captain of a raft. We had pushed the raft into the Caribbean Sea as we sang loudly. I saw a cruise ship sailing. It was sailing on the sea, and it was full of foreigners who sought to see the world. There were delicacies in the cabin and luxuries in the hold. The hulls were made of heavy steel panels, and the gangways were made of gold. There were sailors with strange accents that manned the magnificent ship, and often you can see them mingling between the decks. He helped me to clamber on the raft, and I gazed out at the turquoise expanse and wondered what lay beyond the horizon. He seemed to know what I was thinking. Let's see where we end up, Daddy said, and winked. We drifted out until the water was so deep I saw the crest of lichen-covered rocks protruding above the water like mountain tops. Daddy steered the raft between the rocks and showed me a seahorse was swimming near the raft. He described how it used its dorsal fin to navigate through the water. Daddy knew many things. The villagers said he was not right in his head, and Mammy didn't let him live at home with us, but I loved his carefree nature. I stood on the raft, balancing as I embraced the breezes cooling my face. They whispered to me that this world, to everyone, is fair. Fair to anyone whose heart was not at rest. I lay on my stomach, and for hours I admired the world beneath me. Vivid colored fish, crustaceans, algae, and seaweed, all with their own lives beneath the waves. What would it be like to walk at the bottom of the deep blue-green sea? Maybe I could find a sunken ship like the ones buried in Portsmouth Harbor. On this day of wonder and adventure, I watched seagulls hover in the azure sky. They screeched and dove into the water to retrieve their prizes. The old people in my village said a seagull's scream was a bad omen, but Daddy had a different opinion. They are messengers of changing times and tides, he said. Now, as I tried to think of a song to chase away the cold and fear twisting my stomach, I wondered if he was wrong. The seagulls had warned us. The waves rolled over the raft, and my fingers were numb as they held on to the lashings. The cold spray soaked my thin dress, and my teeth chattered. Daddy put the oar back into the water and stared up at the sky. There were clouds gathering and covering the stars. Maybe if we had moonlight, it would have warmed the ocean water. The wind came in quick, intense bursts. Daddy said something to me, but the wind took his words. He raised his voice. One time, before you were born, my uncle and I were sailing to Guadeloupe to sell ground provisions and oranges. The engine broke down and we were adrift. All we had was hope and prayer. In the gloom, I saw the flash of his grin. I knew this story. It took 2 days for the Dominica Coast Guard to find them. Were we going to be lost for 2 days too? I felt hot tears burn the back of my eyes. We got out of that little problem. God will help us through this. His voice, confident and strong, penetrated my rising panic. He swept the oar back and forth through the rising water. I could not tell if it was doing any good, but it made me feel hopeful. Butterflies. It suddenly came into my mind. He was like the butterflies he had told me about. They didn't rest in their long migration from Canada. They flew in a natural funnel southwest following the U.S. East Coast or the Rocky Mountains until they reached Mexico. Maybe he knew the funnel through the sea to Coliho. Mammy must be worried. Maybe she was standing on the beach now, straining her eyes in the dark, looking for us. Hours seemed to go by, and the sea pitched us back and forth. "There was a mermaid in Portsmouth, Shawo," Daddy said, using his nickname for me. His voice was hoarse. The salt dried in the corner of my eyes, and they stung. My lips were cracked, and I felt my fingers slipping from the lashings. A really beautiful mermaid who was the mother of the sea. She mystified humankind with her magical potions, spiraling salty sylph from the shoreline amidst her oceans. Foaming froth from rants and rages, rankling roars like lions in cages. She roams feisty fathoms, where fish run free beneath the hidden depths of that deep blue sea. He paused. I couldn't understand him. The words didn't make sense, and I was slipping into a dark place. I had closed my eyes and not been aware of it. He shook my shoulder with his free hand, and I groaned. I felt water splashing my feet. The raft dipped, and water rushed into my face and open mouth. I coughed and sat up, my body aching and cramping. It was black all around, and I could not make out the sky from the sea. Daddy pulled me roughly to his side. I smelled strong sweat on his clothes. "Put your arms around my waist, Shawo. We're going to make it, the wind dropping." "Mermaid," I said weakly. Daddy cleared his throat and sang. People came from every village to stare at this beauty with seaweed in her hair. She was half woman, half fish, that enticed everyone. Wrapped her fins around the sunken ship, inviting everybody to come take a look. She seduces us with all the magic and mystery of all that could be. His voice cracked, and I thought I heard him crying. "What's her name?" I mumbled, but he didn't hear me. He began to speak now, and I felt his body move as he rowed more and more slowly. "Shawo, we going home, okay? We going home. Let me tell you about the mermaid. Her name was Ruby. She was a rich Irish landowner. Rumor has it that one night during a big party there was a fire, and there wasn't enough water to douse. Ruby couldn't save her daughter, so she went mad. Her father set sail for an island where they could start again, but I drifted away and then became aware he was still talking. The crew drank and sang Irish songs, but the hurricane-force waves were too much and the boat sank. Ruby drowned, but her spirit lingered. Oh, that's not a good one to tell now either, eh, Shawo?" He chuckled without mirth. But he finished. "People say her sobbing cries could be heard all around where the seagulls soar. Ruby couldn't save her child, but I will save you, Shawo." His arms hung limp at his side as the waves splashed over us and the raft. The oar was gone. He put his feet over the edge of the raft and wrapped his exhausted arms around me. He pulled me with him, and we entered the surprising warmth of the water. It rose to meet us, and as it covered my shoulders, my feet touched sand. I turned my head and looked behind us. There were lights coming towards us, and I became aware of shouts and excited, raised voices. There was the drumming of running feet on the beach, and I swear I heard Mammy shout for them to bring her child. Daddy and I stood there in the water, still wrapped in our embrace.